Hi, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Newsmakers with JR. I'm Jerry Roberts. It is Thursday, March 21st, not the first day of spring, the second day of spring, as every school child knows, because it is a leap year. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go Google it. We are very pleased to welcome in the new supervisor-elect for the first district of the county of Santa Barbara, Roy Lee. After an interminable account, we finally have determined that Roy won the election, ousting incumbent Doss Williams. Supervisor-elect, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Jerry, and thank you, Josh, for having me here today.
And as always, my good friend and colleague, Josh Molina, is joining in the questioning. Hey, Roy, let me start by asking you, how did you celebrate and when did you celebrate? Because it took a while to find out the results.
I haven't really celebrated. The next day, I just went to work and try to live a normal life. I still have a family to raise, a business to run, so I just kept on my normal schedule.
Yeah, what was it like for that week or so that we didn't know about what the final result was going to be? What was that like for you?
Well, I didn't sleep a lot, and my wife was there with me, and we just try to focus on what's important, taking my kids to water polo, focusing on the business, and just try to keep every day normal as possible, and serving my as council member, in that capacity too.
Yeah, well, it's always a big question how the candidate and the office holder's spouse feels about things. Is your wife happy or unhappy that you got elected? You're not going to be around quite as much.
She's proud and she's happy. And we had a conversation before I decided to run, and she supports me. And she's my biggest supporter. And, it means a lot to me that she's, see her smile to know that I worked so hard to accomplish what we did. It means a lot.
Yeah, and it's well known, and I think one of the things that appealed to people who voted for you was, you are a small business owner. You do understand business, and obviously you work really hard in the business, as most small business owners do. But being the supervisor is a much bigger job than being on the city council. What adjustments are you going to make? How are you going to handle that?
My priority will be my county supervisor role. I will hire somebody to replace me, 2 to 3 people here at the restaurant, so I can give my 100% as a supervisor.
So it's going to take two or three people to replace you.
Maybe four. We're still figuring it out.
Josh, jump in here. Go ahead.
Um, well, Roy, I think already here in the first couple of minutes, we're being reminded of why so many people liked you during the campaign. Because when you talk, actually what's in your brain comes out of your mouth, unfiltered. Exactly. You're not spinning to sort of figure out what do they want to hear. And it's really refreshing. So along those lines, Roy, I want to ask you a question. So much attention was paid to the incumbent about how unpopular he had become, about how Carpinteria, Montecito, there were so many signs up for you. Just word on the street, the buzz was they did not like Doss anymore, and so the feeling was he could be in trouble. It's going to be close. But then, all the pundits, you always side with the incumbents, because they're usually who win and they spend more money. But Roy, do you think you won because you're Roy Lee, or did you win because you're not Doss Williams?
Both. I think there were a lot of factors into this campaign. In Carpinteria and some a lot of people knew me because of the business, of the council, and myself and my family. But the challenge was hard getting out to the other areas in Santa Barbara who people never heard my name. And being in politics, eventually you do burn a lot of bridges to a point where people just want change. And if they see a new face, a new name, and they giving me and I'm grateful for the opportunity that they're giving me to serve as supervisor.
Yeah.
You know, Roy, I don't think you understand. Maybe you do, but the scope of this upset, this upset was. I mean, Jerry knows this stuff way better than I do, but I mean, this is among the biggest sort of local government upsets, the biggest I've ever seen. And so you must have the angels on your side, Roy, because everything came together. And that's not to diminish you as a candidate, but what do you think it was? You know, there's a lot of good, honest, earnest, hardworking people like yourself who would have not pulled this off. Um, strategy wise, like campaign wise, how did you reach out to the Santa Barbara people? How were you able to? I mean, you won the mail-in, you won at the polls. I have not done a precinct count. I imagine, you know, you won most of the precincts in key areas. What was it about your strategy? Because it had to be more than just Roy's a nice guy.
It was just being honest and being myself. And over 7 months of campaigning hard. And there were times where I met with many people from Santa Barbara and Montecito, Summerland that I never met before. And just being out there, being present, being available, because Carpinteria is connected to a lot of Santa Barbara too, a lot of families and relatives. So it was a lot of hard work. And but you know, like you said before in your previous podcast, everything came into the place. It was the perfect storm where everything came together for the better of my campaign.
You know, one of the things we've talked a lot about on this show, just in our sort of political junkie mode, is the way that it seems that the Democratic Party organization has sort of given up about persuasion, about persuading people who don't necessarily agree with them off the bat, that they really try to boost that base of liberal Democrats that would be for them otherwise. But it seems to me that part of your strategy that was important was in talking to kind of everyone. You did talk to a lot of Republicans, and I think it appears you got a lot of Republican support, probably as well as independents as well. Talk a little bit about that. About, you know, was that a strategy to, you know, to run a persuasion campaign, or, you know, what were you thinking about? What was your base in turning that out?
For me, it wasn't a strategy. It's just who I am about talking to everybody, regardless if they're Democrat or Republicans. It's important to listen and to absorb what people are saying. It's true, you know, I got support from individuals such as Mr. Stoker and Mr. Firestone, but also, you know, a lot of prominent Democrats too. Sheila Lodge, Kate Ford, Janet Wolf, you know, but I just want to bring people together and not be divided. I think having unity in this county is important because this is a bipartisan position, and that we have to all work together, not against each other.
Yeah, that said, you are, of course, a registered Democrat, although that didn't seem to be completely widely known. But, you know, one of the things, and maybe you can tell me if it bothers you as much as it bothers me, but, you know, there's a lot of people from the Democratic Party organization. And of course, you know, as famously said, victory has many fathers, but losing is an orphan. So nobody wants to take credit for the loss. But, you know, they're going around saying, well, Roy Lee's not a real Democrat, quote unquote. I'm not sure what that means exactly, but what do you think when you hear that?
That's a great question. I don't know what a real or fake Democrat is. Is there a fake Democrat? But for me, I am a Democrat. I may not identify what they think it is, but to me, a Democrat is someone who believes that government can do good and we will do good. And having the right people there can make that happen. And that's why I'm here before you today to show you that Democrats can do better and that we can all work together to make your quality of life incredible for everyone.
Yeah. All right. Well, we should move on to some issues. although Josh and I would gladly spend the whole time talking about the campaign. But before we do pivot to that, Roy, have you spoken to Das Williams? Did he call you to congratulate you?
He did. He called me after the last batch came out and conceded.
What did he say to you?
He said along the lines of, oftentimes it's people who call me to concede, but today I'm calling you. So that's what he said in those lines.
Wow.
Well,
Are you serious? That's how he said it? Oh my goodness.
yeah,
That's-
keeping in character. All right, Josh, go ahead. Let's talk about
Okay.
issues.
So, Roy, this week I was at the Santa Barbara County Planning Commission hearing room, and I covered this marathon 5-hour meeting where the county is talking, or they're not talking, they were listening to developer presentations for their housing projects. And the county, of course, must still vote to rezone these properties, even though they've already submitted a document to the state and had their housing element certified. They broke the process up, and now it's like this weird charade that's playing out, is that people think they have some sort of say as to what the housing units are going to look like, but the developers have a lot of the power now, because if they don't rezone, they just do builder's remedy, and the county was sort of hoping to hold the rezone over them to get more than 20% affordable housing. I did not see you there, Roy, and I know you have a restaurant to run, but let me just start there. Did you watch the meeting? Maybe you were there, there were a lot of people. You know, did you see the meeting, and what was your takeaway from all of those developer presentations?
So I was not there. I did watch the meeting online. I had a special city council meeting that evening, so I didn't want to impact that and make sure I made the council meeting. From my perspective of that meeting is it was basically a developers party. They came out and they increased what they originally proposed. And looking here in Carpinteria, the site, they want to just build more, do more. And we have a project here, the Red Tail Hawk project, that the city is adamant against because it negatively impacts the surrounding neighborhoods. So for them to go out and want to increase it without giving the city any notice, I don't think that's in good faith. I think they just want to make more money. They want to to them it's a profit, but to us it's impacting our lives in a negative way.
So you're referring to the Red Tail 173 unit housing development in Carp. So Carp Valley, you basically what do you want out of that project? Do you want any development? Do you want more housing that's below market rate? What is it? If you were on the board right now, what is your perspective on that project?
On that project, I would suggest a developer to work with the city more closely, because the city will be the ones that will be annexing that property into their city limits. And I want to make it that it's a positive impact and not a negative one, dealing with parking and traffic issues, considerations. Currently, they're proposing 80-20, right? 80% market, 20% affordable. And they want to increase that by a little bit, but it should be close to the ratio of 50-50 or even 60-40, meaning 60% affordable, 40% market rate. Now, I understand that developers have to make a profit, but there are ways that we can work all together to accomplish such goals.
So you actually support that much below market rate housing? I mean, that doesn't sound like a Republican to me.
No, we need to focus on workforce housing and affordable housing that meets the needs of our community. And that's what we have to push for. There's room
That's
to
even higher
compromise.
than the incumbent, Mr. Affordable Housing, has ever asked for,
Affordable housing is key. It's key to solving this issue. We cannot build our way out of this housing crisis by making it most of it market rate. We have to really push for affordability.
What are some of the ways on the board that you think you can accomplish that? I mean, there's sort of this catch-22 because the state, has set this number of our arena number, how many units it has to be, and said 20% have to be affordable, and all these developers come traipsing in and they've got 20% affordable. So what's the incentive for all of these rezonings? I mean, why should the county rezone all these properties to allow them if it's not going to be any more than it would on the natural with the builder's remedy? I mean, what can the board do to push that number higher?
That's a good question. As supervisors, we all have to work together and come to a consensus about what we can and cannot do. But the housing is going to be difficult. It's going to be part of the conversation for many years on end. The good news is that we have time. We have about 8 years until the next cycle has come before us. So we should take a step back and really take a deep look at what we are doing, our long-term impacts, the 20-year, 30-year impacts of what we're proposing here today. Because it seems like they're just rushing this housing, and that worries me because we're not thinking it through. We need to focus on more comprehensive planning development and not just go to the sky.
Well, they are rushing in, and in fact, Josh reported in his story that the planning and Lisa Plowman, who's in charge of this housing element, has received a letter already from the state saying that, if you don't get these sites rezoned, we're gonna find you not in compliance and open up builders a remedy. Of course, Lisa Plowman didn't see fit to make that public until Josh publicized it in his story. But it's a hard thing with the state pushing so hard. I mean, you think the county and local government ought to push back somewhat, maybe by getting involved in some of these lawsuits challenging it, or by supporting this initiative for local control that's being circulated?
Yes, that's definitely an option that we should explore. And right now the state has a gun to our head about, if you don't do this, we're gonna pull this trigger. And which is not how government working each other should work. So maybe it's time we push back. Maybe it's time we say, we need some more time. We need to do this right. And don't push us, because if you do, we will push back, and hopefully we do not have to go down that avenue, but they're giving us no other choice.
Okay.
Roy, the developers, when you hear them speak in their presentations, when you talk to them, they always come back to a couple of things. They say, we build market rate and it opens up all of these other homes. So those people move up, and then units that already exist in the community become vacant for people to rent, and that's a lower sort of rental cost for them. So they say it's sort of this positive escalator effect. They also say that the more affordable housing we do, we're gonna just leave. We're not gonna do a project. And if you all want housing, you need to make it easier for us, because financially these things don't pencil out with anything, like 50% or 40%. And I'm wondering, just as a practical matter, how will you navigate the developer speak with the housing advocates, with the state demands, and then working with your colleagues? Because if it's all about money and economics, how do you get around that if they're saying we won't make money if we have to build 50% affordable?
Well, they will make money. It just typically they want to make 10 to 20% profit on any development, right? And probably they want to make more of all these new proposals. But a lot of developers come in and say they want to help. They want to help. To me, that's a sales pitch. They want to make money. That's a key. That's what they want to do, right? Anybody tell you otherwise, they're lying to you. I think a key is to work with the housing authority. They have amazing track record of re-accomplishing what our goals are, is to provide affordable housing. So the housing authority, we need to give them more credit, more support to making this happen. So
right.
I wish I can give you all answers. I do not have it, but I'm working on it. And
no, I mean, I think that's exactly the answer. I was talking to Rob Fredericks, and this is the city of Santa Barbara, but the same principles. They do affordable housing. The county does affordable housing. So there needs to be some linkage and partnership between those groups as much as possible. And some of these projects that we do see them partnering, the San Marcos Growers, for example, there is partnerships, but it's just always going to be that debate, and you need to figure out a way to do it, because we don't need to build more market rate housing. We need housing for people who can afford it.
I agree.
Roy, we were talking before we started about how you've gotten all these new friends since you were elected. A lot of people who you didn't even know were in your corner, apparently were in your corner the whole time. Have you heard from developers at all about any of these issues, just informally checking in to say they're going to be looking forward to working with you?
No, I have not. And if they do, I direct them to my chief of staff, Wade Cooper. He'll put them in their place. For me, my next goal for the next 8 months is to really listen and learn and prepare for the supervisor's role.
How will you do that? How are you going to educate yourself about all these complex issues so you can hit the ground running?
I'm meeting a lot of different neighborhood associations. I'm meeting with Montecito planners, water district, every elected official, former supervisors, and to really learn and just, be prepared so we can take off running when we get into office, and setting goals for myself for the first 100 days into the first year.
Okay, let me ask you about one other issue. Obviously, cannabis was a big issue in this campaign and remains a big issue in your neighborhood in Carp. A lot of dissatisfaction with the present ordinance, the way that it was put in, but it's kind of, that horse has left the barn. What do you think, what changes should be made to the cannabis ordinance now that you would be willing to embrace and lead the way on the board?
Carbon scrubbers. Carbon scrubbers do work. And as a supervisor, going to be supervisor, I will push for that to be put in the ordinance. Make sure that every farm has that ability to put in carbon scrubbers and get rid of the majority of the smell.
So you would make them mandatory?
Correct.
Okay. What about this? As you know, there's a glut on the market in large part because of Santa Barbara County, but as some of these licenses are being given up, cultivators, growers, say we can't make it, we're going to get out of the business. Do you think they should be reissued, or do you think that they should just go into abeyance and we'll just continue with the number of licenses that then currently exist?
I think we have to look at possibly even decreasing the licenses. I think there's an overabundance of growers in our county. Like any business, there's always a risk, right? Whether you open a restaurant or a cannabis farm, you have to absorb that risk. So whether you fail or not is necessary. You have to be accountable for your actions. So, the growers knew they took a risk about going down this road, and now here they are. And my goal is to take this and make it best for not just our county, but for our community. So the smell has to go first. And I know the taxation is being discussed right now. So hopefully something will come in the ballot in November that we can all vote on and agree upon.
But just to clarify, as these licenses are given back, you think we ought to cap that at that number, correct?
Correct. Cap, no increases.
Okay. All right. And finally, one of the issues I think that was also out there in this race was the question of, pay to play politics, transactional politics. One of the things that seemed kind of strange to me is that the county Board of Supervisors really has no specific ethics plan. There's no, talk about limiting campaign contributions or, banning conversations with people who have given you money about those particular issues. Is that an issue that you think you might embrace and try to move forward?
Yes, ethics is incredibly important. You know, the integrity of a politician is, you know, as Salute told me, as politicians, all we have is our integrity. Without that, we have nothing. So yes, ethics is very important that we should pursue that.
And how do you feel about that? Either the supervisors making public any conversations they've had privately with people that have given money, or recusing themselves from decisions for those who have given campaign contributions. What do you think about those two specific ideas?
Everything that we say should be public. So whatever I say to whoever should be public. I have nothing to hide. You know, besides any closed sessions with, you know, legal counsel, everything that we say, you know, emails, through our mouths should be known by whoever wants to look at it.
All right. Okay. Josh, you want to talk about the future here of Roy's office?
I do. I have another policy question though. I just keep coming back to this because I mean, I'm going to be, on my deathbed thinking about how Roy Lee shocked the world and thinking that there is good in the world and karma does work and things tend to fix themselves politically. And that just never happens. I mean, we got Donald Trump running for president again. And it's like, why, but you kind of like centered the earth here. So I just want to go back to kind of pushing through and doing some comparisons. The current supervisor, vehicle miles traveled, climate change, and he was, even in your campaign, so overlooking you. He was positioning himself for Congress or Senate by talking about climate change, climate change, climate change. And he was pivoting already into his next job. And I know he does care about climate change. Like, I do know he cares about the environment, but it's also the issue that he knows is going to propel him. Let me ask you, Roy, what is your vision for, or do you even have the vision of reducing vehicle miles traveled in the county from commuters? Do you want to get people out of cars? Do you want to get them on bikes, to take public transportation, commuter rail? What is your philosophy on those issues as it relates to oil and getting people out of the cars, which leads to the big climate change issue?
So, California is a car culture, right? We love our cars. And I'm not going to tell you to go ride a bike where I myself go drive a car, right? I want to lead by example.
Thank God.
Yeah. Public transportation needs to improve if we want to ask people to get out of the cars and use them. Our train system, our buses, anything that we can do to make travel much more convenient, right? Better bike routes, safer, better lighting, all that has to factor in, because I put myself in their position. I have to get to work in 30 minutes. What will get me there faster and the safest, a car or a bike, right? Oftentimes it's a car, but if I can somehow convince you to take a bike, give you incentives, that could work. It won't work overnight, but over time, more and more people will adopt this type of avenue of transportation. So it will take time, but I feel free. The way that stands is, if you want to drive a car, you should be able to. But if you want to ride a bike, that should be an option, and we should make it more convenient for you to do that.
Yeah, the idea is that, when you leave your house, all options are available in some sort of equal form. At least that's what, the environmentalists sort of say. Do you want commuter rail, like something that brings from Oxnard, Ventura, LA into Santa Barbara and Goleta? They've been trying forever, to do a reliable commuter train service. If you're on the board, you're also going to be on the Santa Barbara County Association of Governments, and you will be voting on transportation matters and funding. Do you think we can figure out a way to get rail? I know they were in talks with Metrolink, but do we need another rail line for commuters? What do you think?
I'm sorry.
Are you there?
We lose you? You okay?
Oh yeah, right here. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we lost for a second. Yeah. Could
Did
you
you hear
repeat that? I'm
Josh's
sorry.
question, Roy?
Yeah, allow me to be briefer with it too. What do you think? Are we ever going to have reliable rail service, train service, whether it's Metrolink, whether it's Amtrak on Union Pacific tracks? We kind of started it before COVID. The ridership wasn't great. It went away during COVID, hasn't come back. Are you a supporter of commuter service from LA, Oxnard, Ventura into Santa Barbara, Goleta?
Yes, I am. I believe that is the future, but we have to take the first steps to make that happen. You know, the general plan for the county has been updated since 1979, and it's time that we look at possibly doing that and put it into that general plan that we do such of more train transportation, commuter rail, so that it is in the plans for us to go forward for the next 20, 30 years.
And so, Roy, you mentioned Wade Cooper earlier. I guess, it's already in that he's going to be your chief of staff. You said that here. What are you looking for in a team? Because all these people are like, oh, Roy this, Roy that, he needs this, he needs that, blah, blah. Everybody is guessing about what you need or trying to speculate, but what kind of a team do you want to put together? What kind of qualities are you looking for in a chief of staff, an entire team to serve your constituents?
Just as I look for my business, someone who I can trust and we have a mutual respect. Someone who I tell people, you don't work for me, we work together, right? We work together to accomplish a goal. So for my other staff members, I want somebody who will represent the community, who knows the community, who grew up here, and who will reach out and not play politics. I don't want any of the party politics into play. I want someone who's here to serve, just like me, who will represent and who I can trust going forward that they'll do everything they can to serve you and everybody here in the county in the first district.
And how will
Sure.
you ensure good constituent service? Because I think that's, the first priority of any office. There's been some talk about having perhaps a satellite office in Montecito, where people felt that they weren't getting enough attention, and so on. You have any thoughts on that?
Yes, being available and responding. I know a lot of elected officials don't respond to their constituents, but every time I get email, the first thing I do is respond, at least within 24 hours. That's always something that, in my policy, that's important because that's what I want from my elected officials. I work weekends, I work holidays. I don't take any time off. I take this role seriously. So whether I wake up at 5 o'clock to meet with anybody to midnight, I will always be available. And that's important, just being present and being there to listen to people. That's what the community needs.
Hey, Roy, I should know this, but I don't. What happens with your council seat? Because you're going to have a couple of years left in that term. Does the rest of the council appoint a successor? Is there a special election? What happens?
Currently, I'm drafting my resignation letter effective end of this year. The council, this coming election, there will be this 3 districts, District 2, 3, which is me, and 5. So the community District 3 will be able to elect somebody to replace me when I step down.
Okay. All right. Josh, you got anything else?
I'm going to do it like a story, Jerry. I'm going to have a kicker and bring it right back to the beginning here. There's so many people proud of you, and it's hard not to be happy for you because you just seem so genuine. When I talked to you, when I did my interview with you at Uncle Chen in the booth there, you introduced me to all your family. You walked me through the kitchen, showed me the entire team that was there, and everyone was so happy for you. And back then, right? I mean, I had said it too. Roy would be great, but he's not going to win.
Not gonna happen.
The incumbent always wins, right? But they believed in you. What did your dad say? What did your mom say? What were the words they said in terms of you being able to pull this off?
They are so proud. I never see my parents so proud and happy. Yeah, it makes me happy that, you know, for us to come to this country with so little and work our way up to where we are now, it means a lot. It's shows you that hard work and being honest and being true, it works. You know, the working class, we are able to achieve. They're nearly impossible, right? And we have. So I'm the example of that as long as you work hard, it's possible. So I'll tell you a story. Like yesterday, this 9-year-old kid came in, amazing. He said, "I believe in you and I trust you." And to me, that hit me really hard because, you know, I have this young kid that put all his trust in me, and you know, my wife was there and, you know, bring tears to my eyes, say, "I will not fail this kid. I hope this kid in 20 years from now run against me and win because that's what I want. I want the future to do better than what we can." And just, yeah, it's been amazing though to experience all the support from the community, and I won't let them down. I will work hard and I'll make everybody proud.
All right, well, let's leave it there. Supervisor-elect Roy Lee, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today, and I hope you'll come back often. Maybe we'll grab you once more before you get the oath, and then we can really start beating up on you after you take office. And as always, my colleague Josh Molina, thanks for joining in the questioning, and thank you all for watching. And we will see you next time on Newsmakers.
Thank you.